So I am like so excited to talk about this movie because I absolutely loved it. So let's discuss The Lodge. So The Lodge is a psychological thriller horror seclusion based film, and it's fucking nuts. Part of my language, but it's so good. So what is The Lodge? The Lodge follows two children who are stuck with their soon to be stepmother in a lodge during a massive snowstorm because their father has work to do, so he's not available. And basically, wild stuff starts happening because their soon to be stepmother used to be part of a cult. She is no longer part of the cult, but of course, she still has the trauma. And when she gets to the lodge, there's crosses on the walls, there is religious paintings from when the family was last there. So they trigger some flashbacks and, PTSD and stuff. So she's already on edge. And with the father not being there, she basically starts to get a little fritzy. The children aren't taking to her liking because they blame her for what happened to their mother, which I'm not going to spoil, obviously, because it's a massive, impactful moment. It's insane.
So, how would you feel about going to the mountains for Christmas with Grace?
And it's about seclusion and grief and trauma and how all of these things can just mold into one giant mess that if you don't talk about it, it never gets resolved, and it just keeps piling till things go severely wrong. And I absolutely love this movie. This movie tore my heart out. I'm gonna be straight up. This movie devastated me. I was clenching a pillow at the final scene with tears in my eyes and just trying not to lose my cool. From the directing duo of Goodnight Mommy, and that movie also floored me, and I love that movie too. And after I learned that, I'm like, oh, they have very similar styles. Now it makes sense, especially since they both kind of have very similar themes. So kudos. But yeah, within the first 10 minutes, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, this movie is gonna just destroy me, and it did. And the best way to describe this movie, it's like Goodnight Mommy mixed with Hereditary. And if you've seen those two films, you know those films are heartbreakers. They will mess you up. And The Lodge, I can't stop thinking about it. It's been hours, and I'm still like thinking stuff and piecing stuff together. It's gonna stay with me for a while. And the last movies that did that were like Hereditary and The Witch. So this is big stuff. But the cast is all fantastic. I don't have my phone on me, sorry, so I can't look up their names, but I will put their names and pictures. Voila! But the female lead, breathtaking. Yeah, she's beautiful, but her performance is also breathtaking. Boom. No, but seriously, she gives a really deep, heartbreaking yet disturbing performance. And when things start to go sideways, and when things go wrong, you feel so bad for her because you learn early on in the film. So this isn't a spoiler. You learn within like the first 20 minutes probably that she was in a cult and what she's been through, and it's like fudge. Like, how she's feeling in this situation, and it's her performance is just so good. The son, played by, oh, I don't know his last name, but it's Jaden something. He played young Bill in It, and he's also from Knives Out. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he has a bright future. He kills it in this same way he killed it in It and Knives Out, especially in Knives Out because he had like no screen time, but yeah, his like small parts were still like kind of funny. So, and the young daughter play again. I know she's going to be in the Eternals by Marvel, which is exciting as all hell after seeing this because she is great. Like there's a few scenes where she cries and I'm like, "Oh man, I'm about to cry. My chest is heavy." Like it's equivalent to Tony Collette on the floor crying in Your Hereditary. Oof, man, you feel it. And I just love this movie because it's slow burn as all hell. It takes a while to get going. Like there is no like real spooks, there is no like jump scares. It's like pure psychological horror, like drilling into your like cerebral core to like you're like, yo, this stuff is happening, and this stuff is gonna mess these kids, this soon to be stepmom, even the dad who's not even there. It's gonna mess these people up. Oh, and I forgot to say, they can't leave the house because the father has the only vehicle and he's out of town for work. And there's a massive snowstorm, so they're quite literally snowed in, and they're miles away from help, and the power's out, so they can't call nobody. There you go. Which is a good little setup because this snow environment makes it also feel extremely claustrophobic because knowing they can't go out or they're going to freeze to death, which also helps. The atmosphere in this is amazing. There's a lot of scenes where the scenes are just shot or not shot. The scenes are just lit by camera light or flashlights, and it looks, oh my god, it looks so good. And it's pretty clever because it kind of puts you in like their perspective. So good. A little quick little thing. Negative is the sound mixing a bit. I had subtitles on because I forgot to turn them off, and I'm lucky I did have subs on because like there's a few dialogues that you're supposed to hear, hence why the subtitles show them. That coming from my TV speakers, I didn't hear them, and I'm like, good thing I left on subtitles, man. And they were like important story beats too. It's not like Joe Blow called, said, "Hey pops," and then left. Like no, it's actual important to the story and to the details that lead to what's happening. Oh, and it's on Hulu, so free to stream if you have. Well, it's not free because you have to pay for the service, but you know what I mean. But yeah, The Lodge. The only complaint that I have is, oh, before I get to that, the ending is one of the most bleak endings I've seen since like The Mist. And if you've seen the Mist movie, that shit messes you up. That shit is horrifying. And The Lodge has an ending that messed me up, and I'm just like, oh, like I just watched like the final scene, and I just sat there, like I didn't know what to do with my body. It's just this movie kind of messed me up a bit, not gonna lie. But that's what film is for. You're supposed to feel something, and I felt a lot. But another negative that I just thought about outside of the sound mixing, this is a little bit all over the place, is the plot twist kind of. I wish that they delved more into it, but I'm also glad that they didn't because you could interpret this a million different ways. Which I'm curious to look up like people's like theories and stuff because how I envisioned what was happening, how I interpreted the situation and the characters is completely different than everybody else, because this is a film that you can just view it your own way and just be like, oh boy. But yeah, the lodge is, you need to know what you're getting into, and you're getting into some really heavy stuff that involves family trauma, grief, running from your past, and like PTSD. Because this film is not for like the faint of heart. This film is really heavy, and if you have a heart, like I have a huge heart, it's going to mess you up. The Lodge, man, fantastic film. I can't wait to see what these two do next, especially after Goodnight Mommy and this. Oof, man, big hopes. But like always, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go watch like a family friendly movie now. To like, I'm probably gonna watch Cars to like cleanse my brain of this literal nightmare. So, like always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Be good people. Wear your mask and wash your hands.